Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain For You. You know, a couple of times recently, people are asking about insomnia and what do you do about that? So there's a whole bunch of schools of thought with regard to insomnia. And if you've had it for a while, you've probably done the research on Google and YouTube and watched a whole bunch of sleep practices and sleep routines and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that's worked for you, maybe it hasn't. But there's a lot of value there. So, you know, some of those practices to get ready for sleep is to turn off that mind that is just racing, thinking about, oh my God, what do I have to do tomorrow? So a simple practice, which may or may not be useful, and you may have already tried it, is to, before you lay down at night, write out a list of things you need to do tomorrow. And keep that list by your bedside, because if you wake up at 2 in the morning and go, oh my God, I forgot about this, I need to do that. Well, jot it down, go back to sleep, right? So calming an overactive mind is very useful. And my girlfriend has this challenge sometimes. Like if she wakes up, she thinks about everything under the sun. She solves all the world's problems, or she envisions all the world's problems. And so, you know, calming an overactive mind is important. So a lot of other standard sleep practices are, you know, deep breathing, meditation, counting sheep. I know it sounds silly, but people count sheep. Right? That's that old meditation sound, right? What can we do to just kind of get our overactive brain to kind of calm down? So a lot of folks, and I agree with this one, if you're having trouble going to sleep, you know, get into a gratitude practice. As you lay down, hand on your chest, what am I grateful for, right? And that kind of shifts your biology, and it shifts your thinking from all the crap that isn't working right to things that are. And, you know, I think the technique I gave in a couple of videos ago, the 3-2-1, list 3 things that worked well today, 2 things that didn't, and stop at 2, and then 1 thing that you're going to change tomorrow. That can be a useful process for kind of emptying out, kind of a you know, at the end of the day, a review. That can be useful because you can go to bed going, yeah, I did some things right today. Give yourself a pat on the back. Lack of progress will keep you up at night. It will have you going to bed feeling shitty about your day. Progress makes us happy, right? So do what you can during the day to make sure you make some progress on whatever it is that's important to you, right? Did you learn something new? Did you reconnect with somebody? Did you get some important tasks done, right? Progress makes us happy. And at the end of the day, we feel better about ourselves. And if we did absolutely nothing for the entire day, it's easy to feel worse about ourselves. And when we feel worse about ourselves, we lay there stewing in our, you know, self-critical judgments at night. That can impact your sleep. You know, other sleep practices, things like black out the room, get blackout curtains, you know, like just, you know, turn off any lights or LED lights or night lights and just make it really dark. That's a common practice. I always turn my phone to airplane mode. Why? Because I don't want to hear these beeps and buzzes, and I also don't want the cellular signal right next to me. I want to shut that off. There's a whole world full of, you know, concern over EMFs and things like Wi-Fi. Try shutting off your Wi-Fi at night. You're not going to use it. Turn that off. If you've got a cordless phone by your bed, unplug it. Move it into the next room. You don't need it, right? Cell phones, set it to airplane mode. Eliminate those types of things. And I'm not encouraging you to become paranoid about that and become hypersensitive to it. But sometimes that can help us sleep a little bit better. Yeah, so there's some general practices, and look, I'm not the expert. I'm not a sleep expert, so this is just me kind of riffing and thinking off the top of my head of things that work. But I will tell you this: another aspect of what can keep people from falling asleep easily, or if they wake up in the middle of the night, what can cause them not to fall back asleep. These things, these phones, right? If you look at them, I have my screen set very low and very dark. And in the middle of the night or before bed, I have it shut to the lowest brightness setting. In the morning, the lowest brightness setting. And here's what I've learned from scientists. There's a Dr. Cruz who admittedly is a little bit out there and a little rough around the edges as far as his presentation, but he talks about light more than anything else, which is why I love getting out here in the mornings. And you know, up behind the trees is the sun that has recently risen. So getting outside and watching the sunrise does something to our circadian rhythm. It really sets our biological clock. And it literally, if you can watch the sunrise, that will set your circadian rhythm, set your biological clock, and literally create the melatonin now that you will use later to rest and recover and go to sleep. And so watch the sunrise, watch the sun set. Limit your exposure at night in particular to a lot of artificial light. Like turn the lights off, turn them down, have it be dim at night. Limit your exposure to screen time, especially a few hours before bed, right? Don't be staring at your phone until you're passing out with the phone on your chest and then wondering, you know, why you're up till 2 in the morning. Well, first of all, you're distracting yourself with the phone, but you're also looking at light emanating from the screen that is at such wavelengths that guess what it does? It literally convinces your body that it is 12 o'clock noon. So even though it's 11 o'clock at night and it's time for bed, if you've been looking at artificial screens all day long, and particularly before bed, television included, you're getting all of these blue and green lights that scream to your biology, it's 12 o'clock noon. And that messes up your melatonin and your natural sleep hormones. And so if you're having a tough time going to sleep, you know, turn off the television, put away your phone a couple hours before bed, read a regular paper book if you need to. These things matter. And what I do, and the reason I've left them on my head, is because any and every time I look at a computer screen or a phone screen, I wear these. And if you can see, there's a little yellow tint here. These are what's called blue blocker glasses. They are also my reading glasses, so if I'm on the computer or on the phone, I actually need them to see and read what's on the screen. But they also block a vast majority of that artificial blue and green light that is not good for us biology-wise. And so I won't look at a screen without these on. And I even have a darker pair, which is more amberish red, which is even better for nighttime. So I use these for daytime. I have a reddish pair that I'll use at night. And you'd be surprised how simple tech, like blue blocking glasses, when you look at artificial screens, particularly at night, are really useful. There's a company called Raw Optics, raoptics.com. And I've tried a whole bunch of these. I like this. The technology is, I believe, the best at blocking these artificial wavelengths, and the quality of the glasses is there. I've had some where the screens tend to scratch easy. I mean, these are rock solid, always clear, clean up easily from fingerprints or smudges. So Raw Optics, I'll probably put a link down below. But Ra, R-A, which is the Egyptian sun god, Optics, and sunlight. I've talked about it before. Get out in nature. Get out some natural sun, vitamin D. You know, expose your skin to the sun. Not enough to burn. I'm not saying go out there for 12 hours a day. But look, watch the sunrise, watch the sunset. Get out in nature. Set your circadian rhythm and your biological clock. Create that natural melatonin. I'm not a big fan of the pills, the melatonin pills. A lot of people depend on them and live on them. But by taking that artificial melatonin all the time, you're basically telling your body, hey, you don't need to create it anymore. Then you wonder why when you don't take it, you know, you're having a tough time falling asleep. So I look towards natural ways of experiencing the sunlight. I will oftentimes during the day try to get outside and maybe lay in the backyard, take my shirt off. And I'll do that as long as it's not freezing cold. But these things help. And so as it relates to insomnia, yes, there are some standard sleep practices, like blacking out the lights and, just emptying your mind before you go to bed and all those things I talked about. But don't underestimate the power of some good blue blocking glasses. And look, these are not cheap. These are also reading glasses. But I think the basic ones without any prescription or reading glasses are at least $129 or something. Not cheap, but incredibly useful because they're protecting us from these artificial lights that we know scientifically are not helping us. Our mitochondria, which is the engines of our body, don't operate properly when all we are doing is exposed to artificial light. So if you work night shift and you're constantly under, awful fluorescent lights, get a pair of these. That will help. And then during the day, I know you're sleeping, but for a portion of the day, get out in the daylight. Really. Spend some time in the daylight. And if your shift allows, watch a sunrise, watch a sunset. These things matter, right? Really, really matter. And I know I'm talking about something other than emotions. And I get how some people will go, this isn't TMS stuff. Well, I'm not talking about TMS. I'm not talking about getting rid of your pain. I'm not saying watching the sunrise is going to eliminate your back pain or your headaches. All I'm suggesting is that as it relates to sleep and insomnia, these things matter. So, take it for what it is. If you don't have a sleep problem, feel free to disregard it. But even if you don't have a sleep problem, you may still want to limit your exposure to artificial light, especially at night. If you've got bright LED lights, turn them off. Get some incandescent light bulbs, right? Yes, they take a little bit more energy, but they're so much better for our eyes, and the light that emanates off of it is not as damaging to our mitochondria and our melatonin and our hormones. And LED lights scream, it's 12 o'clock noon. So if you walk in to your bathroom at night at 2 in the morning, you got to get up to pee, and you flip on these bright LED lights, it's screaming at you, get up! And then you go back to bed and you lay there staring at the ceiling. How come I can't go back to sleep? Or if you wake up in the middle of the night, and you're like, oh, and then you look at your phone, and you browse Facebook, and you spend 10 minutes looking at your phone, and your phone is on full brightness, what you've just done is scream to your biology, it's 12 o'clock noon, get up, you shouldn't be sleeping. And then you wonder why when you put your phone down, you stare at the blank ceiling and go, how come I can't fall asleep? Well, that's why. So turn off your phone a couple hours before bed, leave it off, put it in airplane mode, leave it in the other room if you will, if you want. I don't know. These things help me. They're my routine. You may like it. You may think I'm nuts. But look up Dr. Jack Cruz on Facebook. He can be very in your face, and if you don't believe what I'm saying, then you're an idiot, right? He can be that way. So just beware. But he is quite brilliant in his knowledge about light and its impact on us, and especially his belief that the sun is really how this earth became the earth, with all these species and people and evolution, and right? It's only in the past 50, 100 years that we've really been living in the artificial light world, and we've gone so overboard with it that it's affecting us and our health and our ability to sleep and rest and restore, and some of this stuff matters. So I know it's not TMS, and I know this sounds more physical, and it is, because sleep and resting and restoring, these are physical things. Biology matters in some cases. It doesn't as it relates to structural problems that create our pains, but as it relates to energy, hormones, light, darkness, sleep, circadian rhythms, biology still matters. So I'm not going to go overboard with this stuff, but as it relates to insomnia, you can't just say, I'm going to lay down and be grateful after you've stared at an artificial screen for 4 hours and go, how come I'm not falling asleep? I'm not grateful enough, right? Another thing that was brought up in a podcast with Eddie Lindenstein and Brad Gutting, who both run the TMS, the Mind-Body Prescription Group. Eddie has a practice where as he lays down to bed, he just says, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I feeling? He says it really helps him get to sleep because it honors and respects and gives a voice to the emotions that have kind of cropped up or been created throughout the day. And it's a nice practice. So do some gratitude. What am I feeling? And drift off to sleep that way. But don't ignore the biology side of it and the light side of it. So with that, I appreciate you guys and gals. Let me know what you think about this. Do you buy into any of what I'm talking about here? If not, you may want to start researching it. Go look up Dr. Jack Kruse on Facebook. You may want to look for him on YouTube. You'll see him putting on presentations. There's another kid, the owner of Raw Optics. His name is Matt Maruka. And on Instagram, he has, I think it's called @TheLightDiet. Really interesting kid. He's actually been mentored by Dr. Kruse, and this kid literally built a business because he believed so much in what Dr. Kruse was teaching that he decided to create the best blue blocking glasses out there, highest quality, most advanced technology, and I think he's done it. So raoptics.com. Matt Maruka is the owner of that. Watch him, follow him, look him up on Facebook and follow him, Dr. Jack Kruse, and let me know what you think. Do you agree with any of this stuff? Do you practice any of this stuff? You think I'm whacked? You know? I know my family looks at me with some of these hacks that I do for sleep or whatever, and they just go, he's kind of weird. Whatever. That's Dan. So, whatever you feel about this, I just wanted to share it because it does absolutely relate to insomnia. And I've gotten a lot of questions about insomnia. Is insomnia TMS? Well, yeah, in some cases, TMS, if you mean too much stress, the answer is yes. And we can be in fight or flight when we're trying to lay down to sleep. And yes, TMS work will help with insomnia for sure. But some of this other stuff may help as well. So with that, I will see you guys later.